I've been an actor my whole life. I've always wanted to be an actor, as far as I can remember. In the exploration of the character, there are a lot of guys who I never want to be like. But I do want to explore their humanity because they are human beings and they do exist. What makes them tick? Every bad guy is not all bad. Every good guy is not all good. You know, what are the facets of their humanity that make them a whole person? I want to try to explore that.
I want a room.
Thing was actually my first big movie role. I always went up for movie roles, I just wasn't getting them, you know. But it was a great opportunity for me. I was very happy to be there. One of the things that attracted me to the role was the fact that, Charles would have been like the next in line to be in command after McCready. But he was more like the strong, silent type. He didn't talk a lot, didn't have a lot of things to say, but when he talked, he had something to say. And, and he was, although he was kind of a hothead, he was the next coolest head to be in charge. The Thing happened to be one of my favorite movies, The Old Thing, but it was also taken after a science fiction story called Who Goes There? And that was cool, because I think we were closer to that story than the original Thing was. And that also made it exciting, because it made it a story about paranoia. You know, I mean, is it you who, you couldn't trust who you were around, so that made for great tension and great drama. We rehearsed for 2 weeks. We had all kinds of wonderful questions and wonderful explorations, but we did manage to fill in as many holes as we found. Summer I was studying speech to become a teacher, and I was a little bit like afraid, because the course I teach is called Good American Speech for the Theater. So that's very different than playing, urban mechanic in the Antarctic. So I was so afraid, I had a line like, "Do you believe any of this voodoo bullshit, Blair? How do we wake up this motherfucker after thousands of years in the ice?" And I kept having these bad dreams. I was going to say, "Do you believe any of this voodoo bullshit? How do we wake up this motherfucker?" Many of the special effects were done in post. So we didn't actually see, like the first time that I'd use a flamethrower on the Thing, we didn't actually see it. So we had to do, it's like going back to acting 101, pretending you're seeing the monster. And when I actually saw the Thing transforming and metamorphosizing and that pinkish thing coming, it was like, whoa! I was under my seat like this, going, oh my God, look at this thing. It was more exciting to wonder. It left room for the sequel. I always imagined that the sequel would be he and I waking up, or being resuscitated, just in the nick of time when the helicopters came and saved us. Universal had sent me the Thing jacket, they sent me a Thing pin, I had a Thing shirt, and I was so excited. It was my first movie. I put everything on. And I went to this little bar on the 4th Street Bridge, I think it was. And I went in, and the Thing was playing next door, and it was about to premiere, and they had invited me. I could invite people to the theater. So I went into the bar and have a drink, and the guy behind the bar looks at me and goes, "You really must like the Thing, huh?" And the way he said, I said, "Well, yeah, I was in it." He said, "Yeah, right." And I'm like, "What do you mean, yeah, right?" I said, "Did you see it?" He said, "Yeah, I saw it." He said, "Well, I was the bald-headed guy in it." He said, "Yeah, okay, right." And he really gave me a whole bunch of shit about it. But it was meant to be a big summer blockbuster for Universal. And it didn't make the money that it was projected to make. But it has since become a great cult film, because it is really a great film. It really is a wonderful film. I thought John did a marvelous job, certainly visually. I had gotten some honorable mention in the Thing. A few reviews, gave me some good shout outs. And I thought, well, maybe I'll have a life in the movies. Well, I didn't work in the movies again for 4 years.
I don't like nobody following me unless I know why.
Well, I don't join up with anybody till I see where he's going.
John called me up and he said, listen, I wrote this character and I have you in mind and I'm going to send it to you. And he wanted to make sure that, it wasn't stereotypical in any way. And when I read it, I guess I kind of understood what he meant by that. But I loved the story. And what attracted me to the part was Frank was, I had, at that time, I think I had recently done some stuff with the Homeless Foundation. Any one of us in this country, given a serious illness or an extended layoff, can become homeless. And there's always been a section of the society that are the working homeless. These are people who have jobs, but they can't afford housing, car, food, and all the things that we take generally for granted. So something has to be sacrificed. So, Frank was one of those working homeless guys who would get a job. He'd, live in a shanty town or a hotel room here and there when he could get one and send the money home to his family. I don't think that story is as rare as we'd like to think it is. I mean, there are a lot of people who live like that.
The name of the game is make it through life. Only everyone's out for themselves and looking to do you in at the same time.
It really has become less and less about let us revitalize the society as a whole as revitalizing sects. I thought between the thing and They Live, John had become a much better communicator with actors. I thought the way he dealt with Roddy and myself was quite wonderful. I thought with The Thing he was far more visually oriented, and he had enough seasoned actors to pick up the slack where he didn't have to talk a whole lot. As we got into They Live, he was a much better communicator. He was much clearer. It was really, some of the, most fun acting I've ever done because it was, we really got to, be big kids,
Come on. Come on.
That fight scene, we rehearsed for 2 weeks and we shot over 3 days. What was wonderful about it was the story of the fight and how it increased and ebbed and flowed and escalated. It was modeled after The Quiet Man. John Wayne and Victor Lachlan, you know how they fight through the whole town. I was an older wrestling fan, so I knew Roddy, pound for pound, like one of the strongest cats I've ever met. He used to pick me up and go, hey, what should I do with him? But he showed me some great moves. I never felt safer fighting with a guy. While we were filming the fight, we weren't actually on the ground because they had painted some rubber mats to look like the ground. There's a moment when he grabs my head and bangs my head onto the ground. So I had all this, gory makeup sticking in the back of my head. And we would break for lunch or have a break. And as I'm walking down the street, it's like nobody noticed. I mean, it was like, here I am with, gore hanging at the back of my head, and people are walking by like it's okay, like it's an everyday thing. And it was like, oh shit.
You have your authorization cards.
Right here.
It's always significant to me to get with the guys that really shoot these guns so that we're, authentic. It always kills me, when you see Arnold Schwarzenegger handling, 2 M16s, I mean, it just doesn't happen. I mean, it's great fantasy, and it's great to see that when the hero does that, but, you wouldn't do that. You couldn't shoot it, you couldn't hit anything. I mean, there's no precision there. I like, when I'm using guns to try to be as authentic as possible, because you want to be real. It's neither easy to do, nor to look like it. Sure, I wish that I had lived through it. Maybe if there was a sequel, But it's the movies. If you get killed, there's another time. Another movie will come up. They Live was #1 in the country in the movie theaters for about 2 weeks. There was something kind of significant about the way it just dropped out. You couldn't find it in any theaters. And as I was talking to some of the cast, I said, this movie must have pissed somebody off. It was a wonderful place in my career. I mean, I'm very happy I did it. It was the first time that I was, literally called by the director to co-star in something. It was great fun to work with John. It was great fun to work with Roddy. And when you connect with somebody, just on a human heart-to-heart level, the friendship doesn't die.